Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and if you really enjoy this video, comment below and let me know what you want to hear next time. I like to cover things that are macabre, insane. On top of that, this is my personal channel, so occasionally you're going to see things that aren't as morbid. But with that being said, enjoy the video.
How very much I've loved you.
Have made our life impossible. There's no way to detach ourselves from what's happened today. If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace.
This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is an ancient history. This happened in 1978. While your parents were listening to Fleetwood Mac, Garfield was in the newspapers, and our country was still trying to figure out what was going on. A disturbing mass suicide, or in some cases murder, took place. They called it Jonestown, a socialist utopia built by an interracial congregation of idealists, outcasts, and survivors. What it became was a death camp, and what it left behind was the largest mass murder-suicide in American history, at least modern American history. See, Jim Jones started as a preacher, right? But what he became to his followers was a god, and what he called himself was a prophet of death. And to all of us, he was an actual monster. This is Jonestown. And this is a story of fear and race and religion and death. And ultimately, how far someone is willing to go to stroke their own ego and convince people that they're doing the right thing. James Warren Jones was born in 1931 in Crete, Indiana. If you know where that's at, there's a cookie for you. He was the son of a disabled World War I vet who preferred telling war stories over actually working, and his mother was much smarter than her father. And, well, Jim was just a weird kid who liked holding funerals for roadkill. Like, seriously, he would go and pick up roadkill, and then he would take it to his backyard and have funerals for him. I'm going to assume he'd probably kill some of these animals, but that's just my conjecture. But I will say, if you really just encompass that, very weird kid to start off. Like, I'm not kidding. Jim Jones was so obsessed with death that he would hold these funerals, and when he was doing these funerals, he would play God. Like, these other kids are playing with toy trucks, and he's doing eulogies for dead possums. All right, but on top of that, he was just so obsessed with death. At every chance he could take, he would talk to someone about death. So he went on and he became a preacher, right? But he didn't do it for the love of God. No, he did it for the love of the game. See, he liked the power of being in the pulpit and telling people what they need to do and what they don't need to do. So on one hand, he'd be talking about hellfire and brimstone, and he would actually use the Bible for like 15 minutes. But then after that, he would decide he was going to use Stalin and socialism. You know, the classics. He started small, preaching from porches, helping the needy, healing sick people. He didn't actually heal them. And this was the beginning of the People's Temple, which was one part Christian revival, and then the other part was like a leftist socialist group, and then the other part, well, later on down the road, was a murder camp. So this guy mixing it all in there. Now, in the early days, he made it look good. He fought for racial equality, and he was genuinely helping people. But any good cult leader knows that you start small, you start good with well intentions. You can't attract flies with vinegar. you attract with honey. So you bring them in, oh, we're here to help you, and we just really want to see how your family's doing, and what can we do for you, and here's some groceries, and do you need gas? And man, I really hate that Martin Luther King, he got, I hate that. Man, we're just all equal here. And then, I was just thinking, if you could just give me your social security number, it would really speed on this whole heaven process. He even developed a rainbow family, which was just him adopting kids that weren't white, just so he could be like, look guys, like, it was a PR thing. And he also told people that God had chosen him to be like the prophet. So very early on, strong cult leader. Like he's hitting all the hits. He's getting them all. Good PR, got a following, did a little bit of good work, God chose me to lead all of you. And you listen to me. Put the Bible away. Listen to me. I'll get you through this. Simple, effective, 4-point plan for running a cult. Now, by the early 70s, he had 2 churches and a large following, one in Indiana, one in California. And he had this swagger to him. I don't know how to explain it. He was wearing these thick, dark sunglasses, round, kind of like Morbius from The Matrix, maybe, just throwing that out there. And people were just like flocking to them. They absolutely loved this guy. He was literally calling himself the reincarnation of Lenin, Jesus, and Buddha. Let that simmer for like 5 seconds. On top of all this, he was staging healings. Like this guy, he would pull the cancer out of people. He would get rid of their tumors. And what he would do is he would pretty much just pull out like chicken livers. And these people were on it. Obviously, these were plants. These people didn't actually have cancer. But he would pull out chicken livers and be like, oh, look at this. I took the tumor out. It's just chicken liver. And then he would get people to sit in wheelchairs and he would just scream at them, I'm healing you. I'm healing you. Get out of the wheelchair. Touch their head. They'd walk again. Acting, like David Blaine, like acting. Like he's not actually performing miracles, but he pretends like he is, so people give him more money. It's all a part of the cult leader scam. And I'm not bashing his followers at all. I get it. It was the 70s. It was a hard time. JFK was assassinated. MLK was assassinated. Vietnam was going on. The country was in turmoil, and people were looking for hope. And he provided this false sense of security and hope. And backstage, he was completely on the rocks already, literally and figuratively. He was taking uppers to stay up. He was taking downers to stay down. Sometimes he'd take too much uppers and needed the downers to be in the middle. So he was doing so much. He was blazed out of his mind, coked up 3 ways to Sunday. And on top of that, he's using sex as a leverage to keep people quiet. Saying, well, you want to get to heaven, you got to do this with me, or you want this position, you got to do this with me. On top of that, if anyone went against him, he was threatening to beat on them, or maybe publicly beating them. By 1974, he was already telling his followers that the government was out to get them. And he was staging these white nights, which were pretty much emergency setups in case the government came for them, and already putting into their mind a mass suicide if things go awry. And yet, thousands of people stayed. Why? Fear is a hell of a drug. And Jim Jones, well, he had the syringe. And then they moved the church out west. So we get San Francisco, Los Angeles. And he is just loved by the politicians and the people out there. Jerry Brown shouts him out. Harvey Milk shouts him out. People were holding this guy in high regard. Meanwhile, in the church, kids were getting separated from their parents. People are signing over their paychecks. Members were convinced to spy on each other. And those who don't agree or are dissenting end up getting beaten in front of everybody or publicly shamed. And speaking of this whole snitching situation, they call it the Planning Commission, which is like pretty much the FBI of just snitching on people. Like your grandmother or your friend, whoever says anything that's anti Jim Jones or anti People's Temple, they gotta go. Jones recorded every conversation, and then he would make people come on stage and confess to false sins, and then he would scream at them, telling them that they betrayed him, and people would clap for this. This wasn't church anymore. He wasn't a preacher anymore. He was an actor on a stage who was doped up on as much coke as Pablo Escobar could supply to him. He didn't, but that's my analogy. Now, speaking on the drugs, Jones became so addicted to taking uppers and downers. He's wearing these sunglasses. He starts slurring his words while he's preaching, and his messages went from a normal message to the CIA is coming to get us. They're going to kill us. You know, typical Sunday morning stuff, I guess. He even told people that their family members were trying to poison them and that defectors deserved to die. He did this in a way where there was no trust for anyone except for Jim Jones. And what does that mean? Well, that means you're willing to follow someone until the end of the earth, even if that means death. And props to me, because that was a great transition. We're going to talk about the White Knights. Now, what are the White Knights? But we're talking about the staged events in which Jim Jones would convince his followers that the government was going to come and kill them and that they needed to die. So they'd pass around the red drink, people are crying, kids are crying, they're drinking it, they're believing that they're going to die. They'd run this route multiple times, muscle memory, but this still doesn't take the fact that they believed they were going to die. And then he would be like, oh, I'm just kidding. It's just a test. We're just making sure you guys are going to do it. That's crazy. Like, that's actually insane. And he did this multiple times. Like, multiple times. He was gaslighting thousands of people into drinking this generic Kool-Aid, Flavor Aid, and believing that they were going to die from drinking it, just so when the time came, there would be no hesitation. I'm just saying, like, if you haven't heard of this, where have you been? This is insane. And you have to be thinking, like, what does this lead to? I mean, obviously we know the end goal, but once he got the control, he planted this seed in their minds, that's when he packed them up and flew them into the jungle. 1,000 people, and that's where we begin our march to the real Jonestown Massacre. So Jones moves nearly 1,000 people to Guyana. Not a beachfront resort, not a nice spot to stay. He moved them deep into the jungle. They called it the Promised Land. And now, unless they were promised heat stroke and abuse and armed guards, this was no Promised Land. This was like a summer camp for Castro's emotionally manipulated individuals. I'm sure you're wondering, how do you go to the jungle and make a compound? Well, it's simple. Forced slave labor. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how forced slave labor works, I'll break it down to you. You have this guy up here. You know what? I got this. This is Jim Jones. Now, what Jim Jones did is he got a group of individuals. We'll say these are the followers. And what he made them do was all the work, while Jim Jones was up here sitting pretty with his cocaine, his alcohol, and his cigars. Now, while he's up there, he's not just chilling in his nice little jungle mansion. No, while you're taking your machete and you're chopping through the jungle, he's on loudspeakers yelling at you to keep working and that this is free will and welcome to the Promised Land and this and that, day and night. So you didn't get to sleep, you just kept working. And when I say he literally had a throne, like he had like a nice kingdom set throne full of imported alcohol and cigarettes and all the drugs that this man didn't need, while his followers were eating rice, mystery stew, and assorted Flavor Aid packets. Like, really, man, this is classic cult stuff. There was no mail, no outside contact, no phones, nothing. You listened, and if you didn't listen, you were going to put in the box, which was a punishment pit in the middle of the jungle that was the size of a coffin. Oh, and everyone was always being watched. In case you didn't get that, he had this thing called the Red Brigade, which just pretty much were a bunch of teenagers with guns and a few ex-cons, and they would just go around policing everybody. And he liked to run these little secret raids where, oh, the U.S. government's here, everyone run, and freaks everybody out. And just, like I said, classic cult stuff. But Jim Jones was still a drug addict who would get up there and he would slur these speeches, and he would read the notes of people wanting to go home and threaten them and terrify these people to the point where death sounded like a viable option. By 1978, families were starting to get worried. Children weren't writing back anymore. People were out of money. One mom said that my kid used to love pizza and now he's talking about dying for socialism. So enter Congressman Leo Ryan. He was kind of like this political powerhouse. Like, he had like this cowboy vibe to him. Like, he's gonna go out there and he's gonna find out what's going on. He's gonna make things right. He's out here shaking hands, and he brings like a film crew and some legal aid and some reporters. And like by November 1978, like Jones rolls out the red carpet and he's like, "Hey, everything's good here." Like, he's telling all his followers, like, "Hey, but you better smile. Like, you're happy here, aren't you? Like, you're happy." Like, he's really making this seem like everything is okay. But then a note gets passed to Leo Ryan. These notes get to him, and it's saying, "Help us, get us out of here." So Ryan's like, "Look, I'm gonna take these group that don't want to be here. Like, we're gonna leave." And Jones is like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. Like, cool. Yeah, get out of here. We don't want you. You guys are free to leave." And as soon as that truck it rolls out, the Red Brigade shows up, and when they're in the airstrip, they start firing, and it's open fire. Congressman Ryan is shot 20 times. NBC cameraman dead. Other people are wounded, so they're hiding in the jungles. Some people don't even make it, right? And at this moment, Jim Jones knows that this fantasy life that he's created, it's over. And that's when we get the real White Knight. Back in Jonestown, he calls a meeting, and he pulls the death card for the final time. And this time he's serious. This isn't a fake White Knight. He's serious. He tells them the congressman is dead. The government's coming for them. They're going to take your children. They're going to torture your children. The only way out of this is a revolutionary suicide. So then they pull out this big vat of grape Flavor Aid. And it has cyanide, Valium, chlorohydrate, and whatever else. And he forces the mothers to feed the children. So he says, and I'm going to read this, "Don't be afraid to die. If these people land out here, they'll torture some of your children. They'll torture our people. We cannot have this." Some people refused. Some ran. They were shot. If they refused, they were injected. Jones had it covered from literally every angle. The children die first, then the parents, then the elderly, then the teens, and then anyone else who hesitated. Here are the facts. In total, 918 people died. 918 people. 304 of them were children. And Jones, he didn't drink the Flavor Aid. No, he sat on his throne, put a pistol to his head, and he pulled the trigger like the coward that he was. I don't believe that Jim Jones, who was a self-proclaimed god, I don't believe the stuff that he says as far as God took these people. Jim Jones took these people. He took their lives away. He took their innocence away. He took everything from them. Like, he took the humanity that these people had leading up to this final day. He took all of that away. Jim Jones was never a god. No, he was a devil. He was a monster. When the smoke cleared and this flavor aid had cooled, there were 918 people who died. Jim Jones didn't just kill 918 people. He killed their beliefs, he killed idealism, and he killed hope. The news broke like a nuclear bomb. NBC, ABC, CBS, Times Magazine. America had just went through the Watergate and Vietnam and the Nixon implosion, and somehow this felt worse to them. Because it wasn't about politics or a war. No, these were just regular people. Regular people who just wanted to live in a better place, who wanted to make the world a better place. But they followed a false messiah into this jungle coffin. Here's the worst part, though. Jonestown didn't stop. It just evolved. The tactics are still in use. Isolation, fear, the us versus them mentality. You find it on Facebook, YouTube groups, your group chat with your family. It's still out there. We just don't use the word cult for it because it's become so normal, actually. You see, modern cults, they don't need compounds. They have algorithms for that now. Every cult promises a meaning. Every leader is going to promise you a truth. And every death starts with a lie that someone needed to believe. In the end, Jim Jones was not a prophet. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't important. He was a nobody. He was just an opportunistic dick who had a microphone and a little bit of charisma. Be careful who you follow. Be careful who you worship. And if someone tells you that the world is ending and they're the only person with the antidote, don't drink the flavor aid.